You're listening to the Armchair Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Armchair Cricket Podcast. This is a podcast focusing on Test cricket by armchair critics of the game. As always, we would like to thank all our listeners for their continued support. Do keep listening to us and spread the word about our podcast to your cricket loving friends. If you haven't done this already, do not forget to subscribe to our podcast on whichever platform you listen to us on, be it Podbean, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Castbox, or anything like that. You can find us by searching for Armchair Cricket Podcast on any of these platforms. We would really like that you leave us a feedback in the platform you listen to us on, preferably also a 5-star rating. You can reach out to us by email. Our email address is armchair.cricket@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @armchaircrickpod. You can also find us on Facebook. All these links, are in the description box below. Now, it's been quite a while since myself and Ajit did an episode together. So this is one of those episodes where we are the people who's going to be talking. So without further ado, let me welcome my co-host Ajit. Hello, Ajit. How have you been?
Hi, Giri. I'm doing good. It's been a couple of very hectic days, what with the match on the weekend and some squash training. It's been a couple of very, let's say, activity-filled days. Also, the work has been a bit hectic. So I'm actually, happy to be back here talking about cricket with you. How has your time been?
Well, also hectic days at work. I was on my lunch break this afternoon, and I happened to catch a glimpse of two famous names on television. I happened to watch this live on television. Tendulkar and Manjrekar.
Right.
And not Sachin Tendulkar and not Sanjay Manjrekar, of course, but it's Arjun Tendulkar and I think Minad Manjrekar. These two guys are fast bowlers who play in the Mumbai domestic circuit. And I think there is a Mumbai T20 league that's just started today. They were playing the first match. Arjun Tendulkar, I saw him get his first wicket in Mumbai T20.
Fantastic.
Left arm fast bowler. You cannot imagine that he's a fast bowler. I think Sachin Tendulkar, when he started out young, he also wanted to be a fast bowler. But it's really good to see this young man. I think he's just 19 years old. He bowls just wide of the crease. He has a very strong run up. He packs a punch, when he bowls. So he has got a good pace for a 19-year-old. And the other guy, Manjrekar, and this guy is a very stocky lad. I think he's 22 or 23 years old. Quite tall. I think over 6 foot. Very broad shoulders. He has a very short run up. You can think of Mark Wood, for example. Mark Wood also had a very short run up. And he bowls, I think, maybe 10 paces, and then he uses his shoulder quite a lot, his right shoulder, and bowls it also very fast. I think he's also 140 plus.
Wow.
So interesting. So I happened to catch a glimpse of these two guys, and Arjun Tendulkar also bats a bit, so he's an all-rounder. And he also contributed with a bat, I saw in the end, to their score, and they managed to beat their opposition. So,
excellent.
Interesting, yeah.
Well, you may have some more Tendulkars and Manjrekars in at least IPL or, some Indian cricket at some level. Shortly.
Yeah, I heard Rohan Gavaskar say this on commentary. IPL turns out to be, kind of an audition for a player who wants to play in Indian international cricket, ODI team or Test team.
Of course.
And apparently Mumbai T20 is where, guys like Arjun and the other Manjrekar, they audition to play in the IPL. So it's one step leading to the IPL. Okay. Well, I don't want to dwell too much on this topic. So let's get on with our chat for tonight. So I will let you take over.
All right. So, let's start as usual with the trivia question from last week. So the trivia question from last week was, statistically in terms of wins and losses, which was the worst World Cup for India? So in terms of how many wins and losses that they had during that World Cup, so to say, which was the worst one. So it was not, let's say, a tough question, but it's not one of those things that remains in people's memories, I think, because we did not get any right answers. The answer to this question was 1979 World Cup, wherein the Indian team led by Srinivas Venkatraghavan did not even win a single match. So they played 4 matches and they won none of those, and they came back home empty-handed, as they say. And well, this was statistically the worst when, let's say, the match for India at the World Cups, right? Now, going forward, IPL ended in this last week since our last episode. So there was a couple of matches I think that we can quickly discuss. Giri, did you happen to see the Eliminator and the final?
Not in totality. However, I mean, if you look at the Eliminator, it was played between CSK. I think that was the second Eliminator. Since CSK finished top of the table, although they lost to Mumbai Indians in the first match, first playoffs, I think.
Right.
They were still in contention. And in the other Eliminator, there was a match between, of course,
Right.
Capitals and Sunrisers Hyderabad. And Sunrisers had a depleted team, because David Warner had left and Johnny Bairstow had also left. Because of that, they lost, I think, against Delhi Capitals, who themselves were depleted of their fast bowling attack with Kagiso Rabada returning to South Africa with an injury. So Delhi Capitals won this match against Sunrisers, which made them, play against Chennai Super Kings in the other match for a final place in the finals, as it were.
Right.
So Delhi Capitals lost this match, and I mean CSK were too strong on that day. CSK, okay, you can call it dad's army if you want, even if they have people with an average age. I think must be in the mid 30s if you take the average of the players' ages. They managed to uh, win over this relatively younger side, Delhi Capitals, led by Shreyas Iyer, which meant that it was a rematch between Chennai Super Kings and Mumbai Indians in the final. The two giants who have won it multiple times, between them. And the other team, I think, being Kolkata Knight Riders, who unfortunately for them did not make the playoffs. I think who was the other team? I think it was Rajasthan Royals who must have won it once. I think apart from that, we can't really think of any other names. No other teams have won it so many times.
Well, my favorite team, Deccan Chargers, I think. I
course.
think won the tournament once as well, didn't they? When
Yeah.
I think Deccan Chargers with Adam Gilchrist playing with them. I think he was the captain of the team that beat Anil Kumble's Bangalore in the second edition when they played in
Wasn't that in
South
South
Africa, if
Africa?
I'm not wrong.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Wow.
All
And
right.
they were rebranded as Sunrisers, of course. Sunrisers Hyderabad. Deccan Chargers became SRH, as we know it.
Right.
Of course, because of change in sponsor and all those things. Okay, let's look at the finals then between Mumbai and Chennai. This was played at Hyderabad. I think the finals were initially slated to be played at Chennai, but I think there was some kind of some administrative stuff that could not be arranged. I think they had some issue with a part of the Chepauk stadium in Chennai that was covered. The people were not allowed to sit there, I think. It's because of that, I think BCCI had to move this to Hyderabad, but this was announced well in advance.
Of course.
Yeah. And we've seen that Hyderabad has been a pitch where we have had some high-scoring games. If you remember that match where SRH played against RCB, both David Warner and Johnny Bairstow, making merry against RCB bowlers, much to my disappointment, to be honest. So I expected more of the same here. And that, of course, that was a day match. This was a day-nighter, evening start. Mumbai Indians won the toss and decided to bat first, surprisingly enough, because these days the team which wins the toss, usually decides to field first. So this was a bit of a surprise decision by Rohit Sharma. Of course, he would have had his reasons. We know that he's a very good strategist. I think Mumbai team has a very good think tank behind them. The likes of Jayavardhana, for example, Zahir Khan, bolstering their bowling coach or bowling coach strength.
Mm-hmm.
So Rohit Sharma won the toss and decided to bat first. Um, they got off to a very quick start with Quinton de Kock and Rohit Sharma himself playing a
Mm-hmm.
quick knock. But unfortunately for them, I don't think anybody in the top five, in the at least in the top order, or until the lower middle order, nobody really stood out um, and played a longer innings. So they got out in their 20s or even in their teens. So Quinton de Kock was out
Mm-hmm.
for 29, Rohit Sharma himself out for 15. Surya Kumar Yadav, who has been quite a good, he's been on a good form um, towards the latter part of the tournament, and also a big match player, if I may say so. He has been very successful in knockout matches, especially.
Mm-hmm.
He also did not make a big score. He made 15. Surprisingly, Surya Kumar Yadav, he's actually he represents or he captains the team in Mumbai T20 League. The one I spoke
Mm-hmm.
about earlier.
I
He's
see.
he's uh, he's a defending champion. In fact, his team is defending champions. He made 90 runs today of
Right.
50 odd deliveries. It was a quick fire inning. So anyway, that's a
Mm-hmm.
sidestep. But so he didn't score. He didn't have a big score this time around. Ishan Kishan looked good, but he could not convert his start. Krunal Pandya also got out for a single figure until the old, not old, but yeah, the powerhouses of Mumbai Indians team in this tournament, in this edition, has been Kyron Pollard and Hardik Pandya. These two guys provided some late fireworks,
Mm-hmm.
which meant Mumbai could muster up a score of 149 runs for 8 wickets. So CSK, we've known that their bowling has been quite strong this season,
Mm-hmm.
especially the spinners like Harbhajan Singh and Imran Tahir, and of course
Right.
Ravindra Jadeja. These guys have been bowling consistently well, and Deepak Chahar has been very good up the order. He has been providing them with good starts, early wickets as well. So Deepak Chahar picked up 3 wickets for 26 runs. Shardul Thakur, the other seamer, he went for a few runs, but he also picked up a couple of crucial wickets.
Right.
And then, Harbhajan Singh, Imran Tahir, and Ravindra Jadeja were all very economical, with Imran Tahir even picking up a couple of wickets, which made him, the highest wicket taker in this edition of IPL.
I see.
So he
I
gets
see.
he gets the purple cap, right? Is that a purple or the orange? I think it's the
No,
purple
I
cap.
think it's the purple one. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah.
In response, Chennai got off to a good start with veteran batsmen Faf du Plessis and Shane Watson. Uh, Seeing them, giving them a good start in the power play. When Faf du
Right.
Plessis got out for 26 runs, the score was 33 runs. I think we were at the end of the 4 overs.
Mm.
And then afterwards, they had a middle order collapse. So the likes of Suresh Raina, who was out LBW against Chahar, Rahul Chahar.
Right. Right.
And this turns out to be a crucial moment, I would say, because I think he reviewed this and it was overturned. Well, not
Mm-hmm.
overturned, but so the umpire's decision stuck, and then Chennai lost their review, so they didn't have any reviews after this. After his dismissal,
Mm-hmm.
and then Ambati Raidu, who's been having a lean patch in the recent past, he also got out for 1 run,
Mm-hmm.
fell to Bumrah. It was caught behind by Quinton de Kock. And then MS Dhoni, I think this was a turning point in the match. Usually MS Dhoni stays out there and then provides stability to the team, even if he, eats up a few deliveries. But on this occasion, I think he was run out
Mm-hmm.
by Ishan Kishan. Some quick work there,
Right.
and this I think was a turning point. So um, after that, Dwayne Bravo indeed,
Wayne
Dwayne
Bravo. Yeah.
Bravo, the West Indian all-rounder. He joined Shane Watson, who was still out there, the opener. And these two guys tried to inject some stability into the chase. And Bravo stayed out there with Watson. They had, I think, about 50-51 runs partnership
Mm-hmm.
until Bravo was out caught behind again by off the bowling of Bumrah. It was a very quick delivery, and we all know Bumrah hits the deck hard, but he also comes off the deck really fast,
Right.
uh, which Also happened to be the case when Quinton de Kock missed a short pitch delivery from Bumrah. It was not off the edge, but it was 4 byes in the end towards the end of the innings.
Right.
And I think there were also some dropped catches. Shane Watson was dropped off Bumrah. I think must have been dropped another couple of times earlier in the innings. So it was a game of who made the least number of errors, basically.
Exactly.
In the end. But Shane Watson played an amazing innings. He eventually got out for 80 runs, trying to steal a second run, but he was run out. And when he was out, I think there was not much sting left in the tail. Yeah, I think he was out even in the last over. So the last over, I think we will probably talk about it a little more in depth. I will come to you on that. The last over bowled by Malinga,
Right.
because I think you watched it. You watched all the 6 deliveries in that over.
All right.
And after that, I think, yeah, in the end, 149 for 8, which was what Mumbai made. Chennai couldn't chase this down. They were 1 run short in the end, 149 for 8. 148 for 7, I'm sorry. With I think Jasprit Bumrah stealing the show there with 14 runs in his 4 overs for 2 wickets. Also Rahul Chahar, the young leg spinner, he also bowled 4 overs for 14 runs and picked up a wicket. Surprisingly, Hardik Pandya bowled only 1 over for 3 runs.
Right.
Krunal Pandya, I think he bowled the 19th over. Was that the 19th over? I think, yeah, he
18th,
went for a few
I
runs.
think.
18th, yeah, he went.
Yeah.
19th was bowled by Bumrah, of course, yeah. So he went for a few runs, but until then he also had a very economical spell. Yeah, he went for 39 runs in his 3 overs. And Mitch McClenaghan, up front, he went for 24 runs in his 4 overs. But Lasith Malinga, I think he had a very expensive third over, but the final over that he bowled, the 20th over of the match, he showed what he's worth. He's probably worth his weight in gold, and we saw another example of what he can deliver. Death overs bowling. I think he is a master of that, and Bumrah has picked up from him. Playing with him. We keep saying that master and the apprentice, but the master was on full show. I think we have to stand up and applaud this performance from Malinga.
For sure. Well, I mean, before we go with the last over, so to say, couple of points there. So, you said, he was sort of going for it. His choices, his being Rohit Sharma's choices, were always logical. And, Dhoni was driven by instinct heavily. I remember reading a very nice article, Who Needs Stats When You Have Dhoni, right? So I think it's completely, he's played his career out like that his decision making is sort of gut feel driven, right, or instinct driven, whereas I think they have taken a more statistics or let's say stochastical approach, the Mumbai team, and they have these number crunchers and a lot of analysts in the background who can help you come up with certain kind of, any kind of analysis you want based on a certain player or a certain bowler or so on and so forth. So this again shows in the way the two teams played their, let's say, tournament. Mumbai sort of went on from strength to strength, even though they didn't have a really positive start. And Chennai, on the other hand, sort of kept lurching from very good play to very ordinary play, and it kept going. So in the end, it really made a big difference because we saw it very clearly that there was a problem that in the end, Stephen Fleming said it in the post-match ceremony where he accepted that they did not have as good, let's say, tournament as they could have, Chennai, right? And now, if you were to come back to the, let's say, the final over that Malinga bowled, he started with 9 runs. He had 9 runs in his kitty to save. And let's say, the most important batsman of the match, Watson, was still around. Right, so it's Malinga bowling to Watson, and this was a real masterclass. You're absolutely right. So the other question before this over started was because his third over was so costly, would Rohit turn towards maybe Hardik Pandya, who still had some overs left? Right. Yeah. Given that Jasprit Bumrah had bowled out and he rightly bowled the 19th over, let's say the most crucial over, they say. So he made sure, in spite of that byes going away for a few runs, there were enough runs that, 9 runs in the last over is not a lot when you look at it. When you think of, how much has been scored, at least when Dhoni was at the crease against Umesh Yadav and so on, how many tight matches have gone on in this IPL. I think Rohit Sharma really, for that 1 second, probably used his instinct rather than went by numbers, right? And went to the wily old fox that Malinga is. He's probably 10 kph slower than what he was a couple of years ago, but still the nous and that skill and let's say that experience is still there. And it turned out to be the right choice, because in the first 3 deliveries, there were a couple of Yorkers and one very low full toss that the batsman couldn't do much. So the other side was Jadeja from batsman. So either of these could have nailed one boundary. One boundary in the first 3 balls would have sort of sealed this match, so to say, in Chennai's favor, right? And they have already done this once where I think Mitch Santner hit a 6 off the last ball and they clinched the tournament, or let's say the match. So they were never out of it. Then comes this magical, ball, again another Yorker. It was outside off, and then they had a point that was set. So when Watson cut it, most of us thought this is going to a boundary, but then there were only 2 runs there. And also kudos to the fielder in the deep. I think it was Krunal Pandya who threw in a very flat throw straight to de Kock, and Watson was run out, right? So that brought a new batsman to the crease. So with the new batsman coming in, they basically needed 4 of 2 balls. And Shardul Thakur was first of all able to get away the ball, another low full toss on leg stump to deep backward square, and there were only 2 there. But still, with 1 ball to win, with 2 runs to be scored, you would probably back either the batsman to somehow survive that ball and they somehow complete the run. Maybe they lose their wicket going for the second or whatever, but you would mostly think this is a super over or a win for the batting team. Here again, a lot of kudos to Malinga, because he kept his nerve, delivered a pinpoint slower ball Yorker, which I think Shardul Thakur could not read. And he was so far back in the crease that the moment he missed the ball, he was stuck full on his toe, and then that was that. I think there were not a lot of doubts. There was a little bit of a conjecture whether it was going down the leg side, but I would say it was okay to give it to the bowler, because I'm one of those people who supports the bowler. And I think that was just because he was able to hold his nerve and deliver such a fantastic ball. I think they deserve to win there. And the old fox showed his skill and his class, and he clinched the trophy for Mumbai, right? So I think Dhoni in the post-match ceremony echoed what you were saying earlier, saying that, both teams were sort of having a hand on the trophy, but they kept slipping up because of the sweat, because of the tension. The trophy kept slipping out of their hands and the other team would catch it, but then this team would get it and so on. And then eventually Mumbai came out winners. So let's say it was a very, very tough match for the final. And at the halfway stage, one would think Chennai were favourites, but somehow Mumbai hung in there. And kudos to also, Mumbai's Chahar, the leg spinner Rahul Chahar, who outdid his cousin Deepak, who himself had a very good match. But I think even though Rahul Chahar took only 1 wicket, his 14 runs in 4 overs would be very crucial in a final analysis. Right?
Yeah.
So again, also you already mentioned that Imran Tahir was the highest wicket taker in this tournament, and Andre Russell was adjudged the man of the tournament, right? And Jasprit Bumrah was adjudged the player of the match for his very parsimonious bowling.
And David Warner was the orange cap winner.
Indeed.
For his,
wow, another edition of the IPL comes to an end, and I saw a couple of reports where Rohit Sharma was saying that, such an IPL, such a very competitive IPL has put the Indian team in the right frame of mind going into the World Cup, right? Yeah. And I think many players, like I think Hardik Pandya tweeted also saying that 1 trophy in the bag, now going to the other one, so to say, to go clinch the other one. So I think many of the players are in the right frame of mind. And even though Dhoni lost the final, I think he's speaking at the right time as a batter as well. He made an uncharacteristic error in the final to be run out, which is not very much like him. But there was enough depth in that batting order to almost carry them across the line. So he can take heart from that, right?
Yeah. I, for one, am happy that the IPL has now come to a close because we can focus on real cricket rather than entertainment.
I mean, for us, our real cricket is still a couple of months away.
Ashes. We're waiting for the Ashes with bated breath, of course. Yeah.
But I mean, we'll take the World Cup. It only happens once every 4 years, so I'm suitably excited as well. Right. So now let's look at some of the other, one-day, let's say, preparation tournaments that are going on. Let's start with the Ireland-Tri series that is in progress. So in the 2 matches that have happened in the interim, West Indies chased down 327 comfortably to beat Ireland, right? So bowling first, West Indies, gave away 327 runs to Ireland. So in this case, first of all, Paul Stirling started a bit sedately, but he laid a solid foundation with Andrew Balbirnie, who kept scoring at better than run a ball most of his innings, and he finished with 135. Balbirnie and Stirling made 77. And in the end, Kevin O'Brien chipped in with a very fast 63 at better than 150 strike rate. And then he was also aided with some lusty blows by the fast bowler, Adair, who was promoted up the order. As a result, Ireland had a very competitive and a very tough looking 327. But then they ran against a very confident and informed West Indian opening pair. So, John Campbell has not been able to come back into the squad because he's injured. So they promoted Sunil Ambris up the order, and he started opening with Shai Hope. And, they added 84 for the first wicket and a little bit better than run a ball. And that set the platform beautifully, because even though Hope was out, Ambris was playing fantastically, and he was a delight to watch. All his hits, all his big hits were straight down the ground with a straight bat, more or less, right? So they were low risk hits, and he kept them ticking over well until, let's say, the 40th over when he was out. But by then, West Indies had, let's say, achieved enough of a upper hand that they required only 70 of the last 10 overs. And then Jason Holder combined with Jonathan Carter finished off the chase. And, the West Indies made it look easier than it should have. And Sunil Ambris was adjudged the man of the match. If we come to the next match, this was between West Indies and Bangladesh, right? In this match, West Indies were beaten comfortably by Bangladesh. Bangladesh have had a sort of a hold over the West Indian one-day team in the last couple of months, ever since they won a bilateral series against West Indies, right? So batting first, West Indians were only able to make 247 for 9, in spite of a very, let's say, a bright start that Ambris and Shai Hope were able to provide. So they were 1 for 37 in already the 6th over when Ambris was out, right? And since, I don't know, Darren Bravo seems to be struggling a little bit for form, and the middle order couldn't capitalize. Chase made 19 and Carter only 3. Then it fell back again upon the captain Holder, who partnered, Shai Hope, and they were able to take West Indies all the way to about 199 into the 42nd over. So the run rate was always low because they could not take too many risks. But Shai Hope was dismissed in the 42nd over for 87, and Holder almost followed him in a couple of overs for 200. At the score of 207, Holder followed him for 62. That meant, the tail had to make sure they batted out the remaining overs, and West Indies could only get to 247 for 9 in their 50 overs. In terms of bowling, Mustafizur Rahman, who was also adjudged the man of the match, finished with 4 wickets in his 9 overs for 43 runs. And Shakib Al Hasan bowled a fantastic spell of 27 for 1 in 10 overs. Right? And then, of course, Mashrafe Murtaza, the wizened old player that he is, took 3 for 60 in his full complement of 10 overs. Batting, chasing a sort of not so tough target. Bangladesh started sedately. They were able to get to about 1 for 50 in their 9th over. But then Tamim Iqbal was dismissed. After that, Shakib Al Hasan joined Soumya Sarkar, and these two upped the ante a little bit. Right? So by the time Shakib Al Hasan was out in the 20th over, Bangladesh were well underway by scoring more than 5 over. And then Soumya Sarkar was dismissed more or less around the same time, but there were no collapses from then on, because Mushfiqur Rahim and Mohammad Mithun made sure there were no such panics. And by the time Mohammad Mithun was dismissed in the 37th over, Bangladesh were comfortably, galloping towards the target. And Mushfiqur Rahim could not take them home, but Mohammedullah did that with an unbeaten 30, right? So it was a very comfortable victory with 5 wickets for Bangladesh with more than, let's say, 2 overs to spare. So basically, Bangladesh confirmed their place in the Ireland-Tri Series final. Tomorrow they have a dead rubber. Tomorrow being the 15th of May, they have a dead rubber where they'll face Ireland. For them, it's a dead rubber, but if Ireland can beat Bangladesh convincingly, they'll leapfrog West Indies and enter the final of the tournament. Let's see if that happens. So we wish the Irish team all the best.
Right? It's interesting that when West Indies, keep struggling against Bangladesh, you seem to say offline, off air, that there's Bangladesh have got West Indies completely worked out, because West Indies have probably lost to Bangladesh successively in the last few matches they've played against each other.
Pretty much,
right?
yes.
And here is us, we were talking about West Indies doing so well against England. Of course, this team is not full strength, I would say. They don't have Chris Gayle, for example, at the top of the order. So we had even said, West Indies could on their day beat England, the likes of England or India. But if this keeps happening, it doesn't look good for them if this continues. But anyway, I think the team is still forming. They're still experimenting things here, and hopefully they'll be back to their best if they play against Bangladesh in the final, of course.
There is this other player, certain Dreras, who's also missing.
Of course. Yeah.
And, if you were to think in this specific match that I was talking to you about with Bangladesh, I think if you were to follow the skipper in the batting lineup, there would be some impact there, some changes, I'm sure. Somebody like Jonathan Carter, no disrespect to him, but with Dreras, it's an entirely different ball game, isn't it? Right? That's one thing. The other thing is also, I think he would make a difference in the field and with the ball. So let's see how that goes, right? When they get both their big stars, like at least Gayle and Dreras back in this 11, it might be an entirely different ball game. But having said that, look, I don't know it's something psychological possibly, because the West Indian team seems to struggle against this Bangladesh team. Bangladesh are not playing out of their skins to beat them. They're beating them comfortably. So it looks more like a psychological thing or something, They're not able to get out of their own fear psyche or whatever you call that.
It reminds me of India playing against Pakistan all those years ago in the late 80s and early 90s in Sharjah.
Exactly. Well, I mean, there may have been a couple of other factors involved there, considering where it was played and so on. But I mean, let's probably skip that point.
Yeah,
right. But definitely, this fear psychosis existed as well in the Indian players' minds after that famous last ball six or whatever, right, from Jandar.
Indeed.
All right. Now, going forward, let's look at the other, tournament that's going on, a bilateral series, one-day series between England and Pakistan, right? So in the first ODI that was rained off, I don't know if you saw that sharp spell from Jofra Archer, Giri.
Well, I only managed to catch the highlights of it later, but I didn't watch this live. I didn't follow this live, unfortunately. Right. But I think I missed something in my life now.
All right. Was it that good?
Well, I saw the video, but I think we were talking about this earlier about Michael Holding and how he bowls, or how he used to bowl in his peak, about really not making any effort in delivering the ball, but the ball still comes off the hand at such a tremendous pace. It hits the wicketkeeper's gloves very hard. Also swings the ball at 88 to 90 miles an hour. That's amazing. I mean, we all speak about our, love for fast bowlers, and Jofra Archer, if he does not play for England, even after this spell in the World Cup, he should play a few games at least, I think. If he doesn't do that, I think ECB should look at themselves in the mirror and then say what they've done. Because I think he's a match winner. He really is a match winner. I'm really looking forward to him playing the Ashes, though. That's what I would like to see him do. Forget the World Cup, even if he doesn't do that. But yeah. But it's an amazing feeling. We remember Shoaib Akhtar bowling 90 plus miles an hour in the 99 World Cup.
Right.
And every time he came out to bowl, we had goosebumps, basically, expecting what he would do next, a bouncer or a yorker or a swinging outswinger, very fast outswinger. Yeah, I think he brings that kind of a feeling when we watch him bowl. So, yeah.
All right. I'm getting the feeling you're a big fan of this guy, Archer. Let's see how he goes.
Absolutely. Right? I love fast bowlers.
Of course. All right. Going further, in the second ODI, this was a very high-scoring ODI. So, there were some off-field events, or let's say on-field events, that had some attention, but we'll get into that shortly. Looking at the second ODI quickly between England and Pakistan, this was a very high-scoring encounter where batting first, England made a high, very tall total, 373 for 3. One would think this would mean they win comfortably, but that was not to be, because Pakistan stretched them all the way, and they were able to make 361 for 7. So I think the difference was only in the last 2 to 3 overs where Pakistan lost out through some very clever bowling at the death from England. But if we were to quickly look at the statistical highlights, Jason Roy made 87. By his standards, it was barely said it. He was only striking at 89, right? He was complemented by Johnny Bairstow, who made a for 51 at 115 strike rate more or less. Joe Root, who batted at 3, was also again very sedate. He's sort of the banker in the team, so he moves the ball around, maneuvers the strike, so to say. But then Owen Morgan and Josh Butler had a very strong platform at 211 for 3 in the 36th over when they joined each other. And I think Butler got off to a very easy start with Yasir Shah bowling some pies at him. I don't know what he was doing. And with that, I think Josh Butler sort of took off. So he scored a very comfortable 100 in just 50 balls. And Owen Morgan did his bit on the other end. So Josh Butler was going at 200, but Owen Morgan himself was going at 148, right, strike rate. So this meant England motored along in the last 10 overs. They scored more than 100, and they scored 373 of their allotted 50 overs. When you look at the bowling, youngster Shaheen Shah Afridi took a bit of a pounding, took 1 for 80, but there was nothing much to write home about. So Fahim Ashraf looked off color, conceding 69 in his 10. Imad Wasim 63, Hassan Ali 81 in his 10, and then of course Yasir Shah was the worst of them all. So he's going at nearly 8.5 an over, and he's gave away 60 runs in his 7 overs. But Pakistan were not dispirited. When they came out to bat, Imamul Haq sort of played a very sedate innings, but Fakhar Zaman had his own ideas. He went after the bowling right from the get-go, and England were put under pressure. So as a result, even though Imamul Haq was steady, when he was dismissed, Pakistan were going at 6.5 an over by the 14th over, right? Then Fakhar Zaman was supported by Babar Azam and Asif Ali, who played some fantastic shots. Babar Azam was scoring at run a ball, but Asif Ali scored another 50 at a strike rate of 141, right? Then Fakhar Zaman kept one end going pretty much, right into, let's say, the 33rd over when he was dismissed for 138 for a fantastically well-made 138, one might add, in just 106 balls, right? But then there was a little bit of a lull. Haris Sohail took a few balls, but he couldn't get going. And then Sarfraz Ahmad, I think he was batting a bit low, but then maybe it's not, they were trying to preserve the right-left combination. But going further, Sarfraz Ahmad did not have enough time. He made a very quick 41 of just 32 balls. But, Imad Wasim, Fahim Ashraf and Hassan Ali, along with the captain, couldn't take Pakistan home. And just in the last 2 to 3 overs, Pakistan lost out on the match. So a bit of credit there to Liam Plunkett, who finished off the bowling for England, right? And then it looked like a bad match for spinners because even Adil Rashid went for a lot of runs. Moeen Ali also went for some runs. But David Willey, who bowled on the other side with Plunkett at the end of the England innings, who took 2 for 57, did a fantastic job as well. So England won this match narrowly, right? But then, there was a bit of an off-field or a on-field event that led to a bit of controversy because there was some unsubstantiated footage that showed, Liam Plunkett clearly scraping his hand across the ball, or let's say scraping his nail across the ball. And later on, the ball was found to be heavily discolored and disfigured, a little bit disfigured on one side. So this raised the specter of, ball tampering again. But then it looked like ICC took a look at what was happening, took a look at this footage that was being circulated, and then they concluded there was nothing to be investigated there. But then some of the cricket analysts from the subcontinent were not very happy. They were up in arms about it, saying that probably, if this were to be an Asian team, how this thought process goes. So it was an interesting thing because ICC to completely exonerate the player, and on the other hand, some of the analysts, at least if you look at that video, he looks extremely culpable, right? And provided the ball was indeed from after what he did to the ball, the images of the ball that came out afterwards. So he looks extremely, extremely culpable, but ICC must have had some more, let's say, strong proof to completely exonerate Plunkett. What do you think, Giri?
Well, I mean, reminds me of Mike Dennis. You remember that?
I know
All
what
those
you're
years
referring to.
ago.
Go on.
The
Yes.
unofficial test match, the official test match, which then became unofficial. Remember
Uh-huh.
that? That it had caused such a huge furor back then.
Right.
Something similar, I would say. But yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it completely, although I've just read about it. But if the ICC says it's all fine, I mean, I'm okay with that. But I want to mention something else here. I want to talk a little bit about Butler,
Right. Go
Josh
on.
Butler, the
Uh-huh.
freak, right? I
Freak.
have a strong suspicion, I have a strong suspicion he doesn't, his Kookaburra Kahuna bat
Uh-huh.
is actually masking a 3 wood under it. You know what a 3-wood is used for? It's a golf club. I think he plays with a golf plug masquerading as a kookaburra kahuna bat. Because
Right,
the way he
right.
hits them, he basically tees off.
Mm-hmm,
He
mm-hmm,
has such good hands. Hand-eye coordination is amazing. He plays unbelievable shots,
mm,
and I think he's reaching a phase in his career where he's starting to peak,
mm-hmm,
and the best might still be ahead of us. A guy who plays with a strike rate of 200,
mm-hmm.
unbelievable. I still remember that innings he played against West Indies. I think he scored 175 runs in that. He
Right.
hit so many sixes then in unbelievable shots. Low full
Mm,
toss, he gets underneath them, he whacks them all the way to mid wicket or even mid on, long boundaries straight down the ground. So I think he's a special talent. It's really
mm,
good to see
mm,
that he's speaking as well as he has that fire. He's not a guy who is very aggressive on the field. Remember
mm,
what
mm.
happened when Ashwin monkeyed him.
Right, right.
So he was a bit. I think that is probably the most expressive I've seen him. Not with
Mm-hmm.
his bat, but with his expressions. He was not happy with what happened then, but it's really good to see he's back to what he does best. Although sad to see that he doesn't keep wickets because Johnny Bairstow I think gets first preference there. Johnny
No, no, no,
Bairstow
no.
himself is in a rich vein of form, continuing on from what he did at IPL,
Mm-hmm.
um, which we'll talk about, of course, in the third match. You have something to say there, what Johnny Bairstow did. But
Right, right.
again, Butler, I think he's going to be the man to watch out for in the World Cup. If England
Mm-hmm.
are going to score 400 plus runs, this guy is key uh, uh,
Right.
in all matches that they play against any strong team, whether it's India or Australia. I
Mm-hmm.
think
Mm-hmm.
he's going to be he's going to play a crucial part in this World Cup if England are to win at home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get your point, and I think I completely understand that. Watching this guy hit, you would ask yourself, well, I bat too. Why don't my balls travel so far and so cleanly, right?
Well,
He
I
might
don't.
very well be playing with a golf putter of some sort of 3-wood, as
Mm,
you say, right?
mm,
That's one thing. The other thing, I mean, I think we discussed this off air. The way his head and his poise, the entire body contributes to him hitting so far, and we were sort of getting into the techniques of it. And well, I mean, not going into too much of a pedantic detail,
mm,
I think he strikes the ball really cleanly, and I mean it's something I think you have to be sort of already blessed with, let's say, but then you
yeah.
have to also work on it quite a lot. I think it goes with a lot of hard work that you're able to achieve this with such a clear amount of success that follows you
Mm,
with that
mm,
sort of hitting, right?
yeah.
So, I mean, he's definitely a special player. I, in fact, remember reading one of these articles. Is he on the cusp of a very special summer? Because there's also an Ashes coming up,
Mm,
and if you remember last year, he was let's say a surprise pick back into the England Test team after not
yeah.
being very successful in his initial stint by Ed Smith, the new chief selector in England,
Mm,
right? But
mm,
then the rest is history, as they say. We can't even think of an England Test match team without Josh Butler in it now. But
yeah.
when it comes to keeping, just a small correction there that he's when he's playing in the limited overs format, he's the first choice keeper. Johnny
Yeah. In
Bairstow
the
fits in
test
the
team,
team
of
for him,
course, it's Bairstow. Yeah.
right?
Mm,
But today that is the third match. So
mhm,
we just finished this match, the third match of the series, where the reverse happened. Pakistan batting first were able to put up a very tall total, and you would expect, maybe then this England team would falter, but they didn't. They chased it down. So if you were to look at it quickly, Imam ul Haq played a fantastic innings today. He was under a bit of pressure following his
mhm,
couple of recent knocks, where at least some of the analysts felt that he was dragging the team down by not, giving them an explosive start by playing very sedately, right? Especially when Fakhar Zaman is not very successful. Probably it puts a bit of pressure on the rest of the order, they felt. But
mhm.
today he went at a strike rate of 115 and held the innings together well into the nearly the 40th over, nearly the 45th over. I mean, because he made a 151 out of just 131 balls. So Fakhar Zaman failed today, and Babar Azam also couldn't make a big contribution. So it fell on the rest of the middle order. So Haris Sohail made 41, Sarfraz Ahmed could only make 27, and Asif Ali again made a very enterprising 52. And
Mhm.
Imad Wasim, everybody contributed down the order, and they were able to get to 358 batting first, England. So in Bristol, so it was not as easy as the second ODI to probably chase this down. but I mean, it meant nothing for this England team. So, looking at the bowling analysis to begin with, Chris Wokes started fantastically to, dismiss Fakhar Zaman and Babar Azam early on, and he finished with 4 for 67. And then again, Liam Plunkett took 1 for 55, and I think he bowled the crucial couple of final overs. David Wheeler was not so successful. He went for 86 runs off his 10, even though he took a wicket. And Tom Curran came into this 11, and he took 2 for 74. And interestingly, both Rashid and Josh Butler were rested in this match. Joe Denley was sort of given, let's say, an audition to make a play for the, let's say, the backup spinner's role and the backup batter's role. But he just got to bowl 1 over, and I don't think he looked very comfortable. And after that over, I don't think he had much role to play in this match. Maybe we'll get into what this means for him a bit later. So going further, England started their chase in a blockbuster fashion as usual. Jason Roy got going and he was scoring very rapidly with Johnny Bairstow. And Johnny Bairstow was batting as if he had a point to prove. We don't know why. He seems to be sort of perennially angry. But, I think most of it is directed towards himself, much like, Kohli or somebody else. So Jason Roy made 76 out of just 55 balls. And together, they added 159 for the first wicket in just under 18 overs. I think you're talking about this on air. It was like a T20 match, right, Giri? So, Pakistan bowlers were carted all over the field. And even by the 25th over, let's say the back of this chase was broken, so to say. Because by the 25th over, even before Johnny Bairstow was out, England had comfortably reached 225. And that left them only chasing a run a ball in the last 25 overs, and they were able to do that very comfortably with 5 overs or more left. Moeen Ali scored 46. Ben Stokes, who was promoted up the order to gain a bit of touch, made 37. Joe Root made another sedate, 43. Well, not so sedate, but sedate in these circumstances. And then Eoin Morgan came in and finished the match off with Moeen Ali. So Johnny Bairstow was the man of the match here. So going back to the impact of what this means, given that Joe Denley was not promoted up the order to have a go at number 3, if he's really the backup opener, so to say, or even promoted at 4 or 5, so to see if he can, get a bit of a touch. And given that he only bowled 1 over, it sort of gives one the feeling that, this guy is sort of out of reckoning from the World Cup. So it looks very highly likely that Liam Dawson might get a call to join this team for the remaining ODIs. Ashley Giles sort of hinted at this already earlier, even before the third match began, saying that, Joe Denley is on trial, but it might very well be that they've already made up their mind. They want a full spinner in Liam Dawson, because Liam Dawson has been performing really well in the ongoing, the list A matches in England. So he's, I think, in the top 10 in both the wicket takers as well as the run makers. So as a result, they want him in the squad rather than Joe Denley. So Giri, maybe you got to catch a bit of the match, maybe a bit of Johnny Bairstow or Imamul Haq?
Neither of them actually. I think I saw only a little bit of this guy, Jason Roy, and a little bit of Johnny Bairstow, but I had to switch off the television after about 9 overs or so.
Right.
Yeah, but I saw 1-6 that Jason Roy hit straight down the ground. I think it was second tier or something.
Wow.
Off the bowling of Shaheen Shah Afridi.
Right.
He's a clean hitter. You see them being hit. I think he's one of the cleanest hitters out there. But that's what he does. He scores quick runs at the top of the order. But apart from, I think they had a few drop chances as well. Pakistan were sloppy in the field. I think Hassan Ali, when he came out to bowl as a first change bowler, it must have been 8th or the 9th over. The very first ball, he bowled a short of good length ball outside the off stump, and Jason Roy punched this off his back foot, and then it went straight to Shaheen Shah Afridi, who was at mid-off, was fielding at mid-off inside the circle, and he basically spilled it. He couldn't hold on to it.
Right.
I think if Jason Roy had got out at that point in time, less than 10 overs, still within the first power play, England not having had that explosive start, they were still getting there. I think they were not scoring, they were not like 150 runs in 17 or 18 overs. So they were still getting up to speed.
Right.
That may have, that may have put some brakes on the scoring rate there, but we never know. Could haves and would haves, but can't say anything about it now. But Pakistan, I think, will take some. They'll be a bit happy that Shadab Khan is now fully
Mm-hmm.
recovered and he's going to join them in the squad, right? For the
Right.
remainder of the series, I think. Yeah, I hope he gets to play again in the
Right.
next two ODIs, and Yasir Shah will probably go back home. Uh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think he has done enough. Probably, I think
Right.
he belongs in the Test squad, not here. And
Agreed.
didn't Mohammad Amir also have some kind of an illness recently? Has he contracted
Well,
some kind of infection?
well, I mean, the news we get to read is that he may be down with chicken pox. He's in England with his family, but he's not with the squad. But they're now treating it as a chicken pox case of chicken pox. That is really unfortunate because I
Hmm.
think that puts his chances of participating in this World Cup to be very tough, really,
Hmm.
almost non-existent. Because I don't think he has enough time to recover and play and sort of make a case for himself, considering that he's not in the initial 15, right? I think
Hmm.
this might be very tough for him, right? This is one of the points. The other thing, when it comes to Yasir Shah, well, I mean, look, it's not such a bad thing if he can't really make a transition, because sometimes bowlers do struggle. Frankly, I saw his spell the other day in the second ODI, and what he was bowling was mostly filth. Sorry to be so blunt about it, but um, even the best spinners can. I think he's too much inside his own head. That's what it looked like. Sometimes being a wrist spinner, I know how it works, and sometimes you suffer from the yips, as they say, and you sort of get so much in your head that the ball does not leave your hand correctly. It
Okay.
happened to me in one of the matches in the last few weeks, and sometimes it takes a bit for you to get out of that funk. You
Hmm.
need the right kind of people talking or saying the right kind of things to you, and then it can work.
Hmm.
But sometimes you don't snap out of it and you continue to deliver or bowl filth. And
Hmm.
as a leg spinner, you'll bowl a bunch of short balls or a bunch of full tosses, both of which the batsman is sort of waiting for, right?
Hmm.
Unfortunately, that's what's happened with Yasir Shah. But when I look at the rest of this lineup, look, Shaheen Shah Afridi is very young and he's still learning his craft, and these things will only help make him stronger, right? But when you look at the rest of this bowling lineup, Junaid Khan was in today. He suffered. He has given 57 runs in just
Hmm.
8 overs, and Hassan Ali was off color. But then Imad Wasim, the spinners struggled as well. But the one guy whose star seems to be rapidly descending is Fahim Ashraf. He's not done anything of note since the beginning of the tour, and there was also some talks whether somebody like Amir may replace this guy if he doesn't show his worth in this
Hmm.
upcoming few matches. But given that Amir is probably out of the reckoning, we don't know if there are any other people. There were a couple of other fast bowlers who, I think there was an Abdul Rauf who bowled really fast in PSL, right?
Hmm.
And there is also Hasnain who's sort of waiting in the wings, I think.
But he's
So
already in the probables, right? He's
yes,
already in the
yes,
squad, I
Hasnain
think, in the
is.
15. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, what I mean by waiting in the wings is in this tournament, in this
Yeah.
bilateral
Okay.
tournament.
To grab a
So I
place.
think they may get an audition in the upcoming matches, and then I think time is fast running out for somebody like Fahim Ashraf, and he did not contribute with the bat either. In as I said, because he's sort of in the squad as an all-rounder, right? So I think they're struggling a bit here. So, but let's see. I mean, what also scares me is from any other team's perspective that will play in England against this England team, these people look almost unbeatable. Be it chasing, be it
Yeah.
setting a total. This looks like the team to beat. Definitely, we knew about it, but this is of a different level because it's completely scary. Looking
Hmm.
at, they don't care whether you make 360, they'll chase it down. Whether they bat
Hmm.
first, it's very highly likely they'll almost make a 400, right?
Yeah.
Only thing is they may have an occasional off day, this England team,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it might very well be in one of the deciders. But otherwise, it's very tough to see this England team getting beaten, at least before the knockouts. What do you say, Giri?
Yeah, I think if you look at the way the openers start off, they begin explosively.
Mm-hmm.
They play a 50 over match like a T20 game all
Right,
throughout.
right.
So they always try to score a 150 strike rate of 150 or above
Mm-hmm.
in order to achieve, in order to make such a big score. I think they have been doing that in the recent past, and they have been very successful. And they have also had some out collapses, like you said.
Yeah.
Um, but I think a bowling lineup that England has right now, with the likes of Jofra Archer also probably making the squad, or any bowler would like to have such a strong batting lineup, in their team, because this gives them so much of if they're batting first, the bowling squad will be very happy to defend a very huge total.
Right.
And if they're bowling first, I think they can still go for a few runs, knowing that the batsmen will do their job, providing
Right.
every one of them, is firing on all cylinders. But it looks like the majority of the players, at least Jason Roy, Johnny
Mm-hmm.
Bairstow, Root to an extent as well. I think he had a good start today. Owen Morgan,
Mm-hmm.
of course, and then Joss Butler. And I don't know if Ben Stokes will start scoring more runs, but I look forward to
Right.
him scoring a few more. But if you look at the top six, you have at least four guys who have been very consistent over the last
Mm.
12 months or so. So, and if the other two guys also, start chipping in, it's going to be a formidable squad. It already is, and I think it's probably going to make it stronger than ever. I think England will fancy themselves at home, but at the same time, the expectations might also, bring their downfall. I hope not. Let's see. I mean, let's hope for some good cricket all round, and I hope
Indeed.
for a good contest, not one-sided matches though.
Agreed. Agreed. And I think, at least as far as this tournament is concerned, Pakistan is sort of still sorting a few things out, but
Mm.
they'll want to hit the road winning, right? They're
Yeah.
already in England, and this is sort of the final set of preparatory matches they have. There are a couple of warm-ups for sure, but
Mm.
they'll not want to go into the warm-ups completely having
Mm.
conceded the series to England. They'll want to take at least one or two of these remaining matches away, because now that England are 2-0 up, they can't lose the series. But
Yeah.
the onus is on Pakistan to come back fighting, and probably the stage is set.
Yeah.
One feels the corner tigers are about to come out. At least if not in this tournament, I would rather see them come out now, because otherwise you can expect going into the World Cup they're even more of a corner set, and that's
Mm.
probably even bad for the rest of them.
Yeah.
Rest of
Yeah.
the teams. Let's see how that goes. Right?
Yeah. They need to find their winning combination. I think that's the key here.
Indeed.
Otherwise, they will lose a few matches at the beginning of the tournament, which will set them up in a wrong way. But we'll
Mhm.
see. I think Pakistan have always surprised us. So let's hope it's something on the similar lines, of 1992 World Cup. Let's see
Hmm.
what they can do.
Right. All right. Now, going forward, let's quickly look at the Women's T20 Challenge, the final of the Women's T20 Challenge that happened also in the interim, right? So, Supernovas won the Women's T20 Challenge by clinching the final against Velocity. So, batting first, Velocity made 121 for 6, and Veda Krishnamurthy, they have a very power-packed lineup, but they couldn't do much. Mithali Raj batting in the middle took 22 balls for a 12. And then, even though there were some handy contributions towards the end by Verma and Kerr, who made 40 and 36 respectively, they could only get to 121 in 20 overs. Right? Leah Tehuhu, the New Zealand fast bowler, took 2 for 21 in 4 overs. Then Sophie Devine took 1 for 19. Right? And Natalie Skiver took 1 for 27 as well. So basically, let's say Supernovas began their innings as the favorites, and they were well on track. So even though they lost a couple of wickets in middle, there was a sudden blip when Kaur, the captain of Supernovas, Harmanpreet Kaur, she was sort of holding one end together. She made a 51 of just 37 balls, but apart from Punia, who opened and scored 29, there was nobody putting up their hand. But in the end, she made the match-winning contribution, so to say. And I think Yadav towards the end hit a couple of lusty blows. So basically, going into the last over, it was going to be a very, let's say, it was a do-or-die situation as far as Supernovas were concerned. And Radha Yadav came to the party, and she hit a 4 and took a couple of quick 2s, and they got home off the last ball of the match to take the tournament. So this is, I think, like a precursor to a possible women's IPL from the upcoming season. So this is BCCI slowly trying to find out what should be the format, what should be the what should be the number of matches, etc. in the upcoming season if they want to do a women's IPL. But this is a precursor, and I like to see at least this happen, because Australia have already started a WBBL,
Mm.
and it's now like a real proper family event where entire families come out and they camp out on the grass. And this usually it's a double header most BBL matches these days, that there is a women's BBL match then followed by a men's BBL match. It'll be very interesting to see if IPL can also follow this sort of a format, but considering the number of matches they play, it'll be a bit tough. So maybe it'll probably be held in parallel rather than simultaneously. But let's see, right?
Yeah.
All right. Going forward, let's quickly look at some of the other news from around the world, which is sort of also impacting the current set of cricketing events. So first of all, Peter Fulton, the so-called 2-meter Peter, the former New Zealand batsman, has been appointed as the New Zealand batting coach to succeed Macmillan. Right? I mean, it's not much of a news if you were to look at it. Fairly successful international cricketer. He couldn't really convert his, let's say, the first-class promise to be a mainstay of the New Zealand batting lineup. But then he knows a bit about batting. He's also had some coaching roles here and there. But not everybody's happy about this appointment. He's succeeding Craig McMillan, who held the batting coach role for a while with New Zealand setup. But I think Craig McMillan has decided to move on. And it was interesting that Peter Fulton has been appointed. There is a bit of nepotism whispers here and there, because after all, when he was the captain of, let's say, Canterbury team, a certain Gary Stead was the coach of that team, and the same Gary Stead is now the coach of the New Zealand team. So there's some whispers of nepotism here and there, but I think in the coming days we will see if this was indeed the case, right?
Does he become the batting coach after or before the World Cup?
I think immediately after the World Cup, because I think Macmillan's contract comes to the end at the end of the World Cup, and he's decided to not renew it, if I read the report right.
Okay.
Correct?
Okay.
So yeah, and I think he's been with this setup for a couple of years, so he sort of set up a bunch of these batters and sort of worked on them to get them in a good place, right?
Yeah.
So we'll have to see if this is enough, but maybe not, right? So also you get a bit of time to sort of settle in, and there's a little bit of a period where you also get to assess how you can help the batters, right? At the highest level, there was this discussion earlier at some point in time when Curtly Ambrose was hired as a bowling consultant by West Indian board, and they were not happy with his services because he said, I'm here to make minor corrections. I'm not here to train them in the basics. I expect they already know it to have reached this level. They have come through state level cricket, so to say, or country level cricket there, and they've also gone through some age group cricket. So I'm here to correct their attitude and make some minor adjustments here and there. So it depends on what is really expected from Peter Fulton there. So let's see how that goes, right? All right. Going forward, the other news is that Sri Lanka cricket analyst Jayasundara, right, has been hit with corruption charges. Sanat Jayasundara is the name of this analyst, and he works for Sri Lanka Cricket's Brain Center, where he's been helping analyze the Sri Lankan cricket team with their let's say video footage analysis and other things. But he's also been working with the under-19 team. But what has happened is basically he's been charged with offering bribe to the Sri Lanka sports minister in order to influence a result, or maybe some other parts of the match, maybe where it was held, or any of these things. So as a result, this is a very unsavory event that has come out that we can see, and we are very, let's say, concerned, because there is another event that's also going on, that Gunawardana and Zoysa. So Avishka Gunawardana, who was a player and now a very high profile coach basically, right? And Nuwan Zoysa, if you remember, the tall left arm bowler, right?
Yeah.
Both of whom played around the Sri Lankan cricket setup for a while, more than a decade or so, are now coaches, have been charged with, let's say, some match fixing allegations, right? And all of these were suspected during the T20 tournaments that happened in Sharjah recently, right? So Nuwan Zoysa has been charged with 3 counts, and Gunawardana has been charged with 2 counts. So some of these are very serious accusations. So all of these don't add up to a very healthy picture of what's going on in Sri Lanka cricket, right? So we know sort of Sri Lankan cricket has been in focus for the last couple of months with respect to, corruption charges. Jayasuriya recently was banned for 2 years, and so on and so on. So we really hope they put their house in order. This doesn't augur well, because, also on the field, their team is struggling a little bit, and also off the field, if this is the sort of image they project, I don't think, the fans in the country will be really happy, and they may lose some really hardcore fans for good, right? And then as a result, in the long run, the sport may suffer on the island. What do you think, Giri?
I fully agree. I think they need to get their house in order. There's far too many corruption. That they're in the news for wrong reasons. So this should not be the case. Yeah.
Agreed. I mean, let's hope sanity prevails and the house is put in order shortly, and the focus shifts back to cricket rather than all of these off-field events with Sri Lanka.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
All right. Going forward, another small news: Wriddhiman Saha, the aging but very agile keeper, has been given a chance with the India A team, and this is sort of a precursor, let's say, with Pant also not being involved in the World Cup team. I think there's going to be a good tussle to see if Wriddhiman Saha can displace Pant as the Test match keeper. Giri, I don't know if you followed this news. Any thoughts on this?
India play their next Test series against West Indies, I believe.
Right.
And I think
Exactly.
that's sometime in the month of July. So they travel to Caribbean, I think.
Right.
Or is it at home?
I think it might have been a home series. Right.
Yeah, okay. So I think they're just looking to have a backup keeper just in case Rishabh Pant is either tired or he doesn't seem to be in good form. It's always good to have competition in the team to keep
Right.
the other guy, he keep them on the toes, right? So
Absolutely.
so Wriddhiman Saha, he probably deserves another chance. I think he's a really good keeper. He's a proper wicket keeper with proper wicket keeping skills. He might not be that good with the bat, although we know that he has scored a very quick T20 century in one of the local matches. I think was that. Can't remember. I think it must have been Mushtaq Ali's tournament, something like that.
All right.
But so he probably deserves another chance. Let's see. I hope he gets his due.
All right. And also, I hope he grabs the chances and make sure, he puts the hat in the ring as far as, Test match keeping selection is concerned. Right. We for sure know Pant is the coming man. Also, he's not just the coming man; he's the incumbent in this case, right?
Yeah,
With
and
the
I
Test
think
match
the
team.
India A team will also have a lot of youngsters, and they can use Wriddhiman Saha's international experience. So he'll probably give them some wisdom
Of
while
course.
playing with them. So it could also be on a mentoring, role, not just as a player, I would say.
Good spot there. And just one small correction: you are absolutely right. It's an away tour, and so India will be touring the West Indies, and they play
Yeah,
tests there.
in
Right?
July. Wow,
Yes, in July.
amazing.
That's why I was also a bit surprised. But well, go on.
No, no, no. No, I know that the Caribbean is in the equatorial region, and it probably rains there every afternoon during the summer months, if I'm not wrong. Otherwise, it's
Yes.
going to be really hot. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they probably play around it. Let's say they plan their tea at that time
They need to
exactly.
play in a swimming pool, man.
Well,
Different
I really hope
type
it
of
doesn't
cricket,
come to
yeah.
that.
No.
All right. All right. Those are all the, let's say, the main points that we would like to have covered today. We can now look at the trivia question for this week. So now we are back off the focus of IPL, and we've also done the review of all the teams that are going to participate in the World Cup. We are back to our standard trivia format. So the question for this week is, which player holds the record for the highest score by a number 10 in tests? This is one of those old records. The clue I can give you is this is one of those old records that hasn't been touched in more than 100 years, right? Very much like the highest percentage score by a batter in a completed innings, so on. This is a record that goes back to that era. So that's the clue I can offer. So good luck with the question, and we would be very happy to hear from our listeners and fans, whoever is listening, what do you think the answer is. So we are not averse to you guys Googling. If that's how you want to get to the answer, it's a good one. You could always get in touch with us through our social media. You can get in touch on Twitter at armchair.cricket. We have Facebook page. There are some quizzes and occasional polls that we post. We would really like it if you were to participate in them. You can get in touch with us via our mail ID armchair.cricket@gmail.com. Also, you could leave us your comments on whichever podcasting app you use, or whichever media you choose to consume our podcast through. All right, then, having said all that, it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from him. Bye bye.
You're listening to the Armchair Cricket Podcast.